Welcome back. Bed Byron here at Santa Rosa Beach, Butt Rub World Headquarters. Today's Rib Day, and I have been getting a lot of requests for this show. We've been putting it off just a little bit because I want to kind of build up to it. Today's our first barbecuing day. Now, in the past 3 shows, we've done grilling exercises. And a lot of people use the term grilling and barbecuing simultaneously, but really they're quite the opposite. And we'll get into that just a little bit. I came up with a butt rub apple glazed rib that I'm real happy with. And I think that if you follow what we're doing today, you'll enjoy the unique rib. It's a flavored dish. It's a little unique. We're kind of taking a traditional method and having a little contemporary flair with it. But it's a little bit of a sweet heat balance, and it's just a real pretty rib with a nice apple glaze on it. By all means, it is not the definitive way to do ribs. There's so many ways to do ribs. That's why there's a competition every weekend. Everybody's got their own approach. So I'm not here to say this is the only way to do it. But I am here to say that this is a very successful way to do it, and I think you'll be real happy with the results. Okay, let's talk about rib options here. When we're talking about barbecue ribs, we're talking about pork ribs. I mean, you can find barbecue ribs that are beef in certain places in the country, but universally, it's a pork thing. And, you know, each region of the country has different preferences on barbecue, but the one common denominator that everybody kind of agrees on is pork ribs. I mean, it's just, it has to be the most universal liked barbecue in our country. It certainly crosses all regions and all boundaries. So when we're talking about pork ribs, now you got 2 options. Okay, I've got an example of each right here in front of us. This is known as the loin back. Okay, this is basically the upper part of the rib cage, encases the loin. Very popular. When you read baby back ribs, this is what they're talking about. Baby back ribs is just a marketing term. It all started back in the Danish. First started importing when they started bringing in the ribs, there were just these little baby ribs, and that's how they got the name. But anyway, they're a lot bigger now. They're not necessarily baby backs, but it is a loin rib. You know, I would say half people prefer loin, half people prefer the spare rib, which brings me to this. Now, this is what we're going to be cooking today, actually. This is a full spare, and this encases the belly. Now, on the spare, we're going to actually trim that down. I'll show you in just a minute, but it's called a St. Louis cut. If you don't want to do any of your own butchering, you could find St. Louis cut ribs at your meat market, but it's not hard to do either. Basically, you can find the full spare probably more commonly available. We're going to get right into that, but we were talking about the difference in barbecuing and grilling, and I actually have a little chart that we're going to kind of put together here. You'll never forget the difference between grilling and barbecuing with this simple little diagram. For grilling, you know, we were talking about tender cuts. You know, we had chicken wings, we had fish, we did shrimp. If you want to do burgers or steaks, these are all tender cuts. Grilling is also a high heat method. We were cooking, the last thing we cooked was a shrimp. That was 450 degrees, I think. We cooked it directly over coals, okay? And it's a very quick method. Now with barbecuing, and what we're going to do with these ribs today, we're going to slow it down. First of all, it's a tough cut. And all true barbecue cuts are tough. The pork shoulder, beef brisket, you know, ribs even, those are all tough cuts of meat. So that's one difference. High heat, we're going to go low heat. Okay, we're going to be cooking at 225 today. 225 is a classic barbecue temperature. Direct heat, okay, we're going indirect. You'll see the offset fireboxes on a lot of those grills. That's what that's for. You build a fire down here and then it comes up into the main chamber, so that's indirect cooking. For us today, we're going to bank the coals over to one side and we'll have the meat on the other side. So that's a form of indirect cooking. All right, in grilling, we're talking about quick cooking. In barbecuing, we're talking about slow cooking. You've heard the term slow and low. Well, there you go. Okay, so while the term is used synonymously, they're actually quite the opposite. Tender, tough, high heat, low heat, direct heat, indirect heat, quick cooking, slow cooking. So next time you get an argument at the Super Bowl party, you can let them know that that's not barbecue at all when you're eating your brats. So now we know a little bit of the basics on our pork rib options. I'm going to go with the spare rib. It's my personal favorite. I think it's got just a little bit more flavor and a little bit more succulence to the meat. A lot of people prefer the loin back. This recipe today is interchangeable with either one. So if you prefer the loin back ribs, that's fine. You can do the same time and temperatures, the same prep, same everything. But let's go ahead and get into our spare rib here. I had mentioned I was going to cut this off into a St. Louis cut. And again, you know, if you want to do the full spare, just like it is, that's fine. That's a very popular thing to do. The reason we're cutting down to a St. Louis cut is because the rib actually ends right here at the end of this meat. And this is kind of skirt meat. It's very popular to have a St. Louis cut. It just kind of presents well. I like it that way. It's very popular in competitions. So what we're going to do, we have this spare rib here. I'm going to turn it over. Cut that skirt off. The way I do it, okay, right here are the two longest ribs of the whole. And this is a slab, by the way. When you cut into it, it's called a rack. But on this slab, I put my fingers right here at the base of these two, the longest ribs. I'm just going to make a mark. I'm going to mark it. Okay, so I got my mark. And basically, the only thing a St. Louis cut is, it's just cutting this off below the mark. So it's not hard to do. You're not going through bone or anything like that. I just kind of carry my mark on out to there, and then carry a mark straight across. That's it. So now, start at this end, go ahead and go down to the cutting board and just go straight across. Just like that. Okay, so this is a St. Louis cut. Okay, the next thing we'll do, okay, let's talk about this membrane right here. You know, I looked around the internet and there's a lot of people actually telling you to keep this membrane on. I would not recommend that. You know, one of the things you can do to improve your rib cooking is to remove this membrane. It's not hard to do. The thing is the stomach lining, and it's no amount of cooking is going to break it down. It's not chewable, it's not digestible. And on top of that, when we go to season this rib, we can only season one side of it because, I mean, this might as well be, you know, a plastic wall right here. So it's not hard to do. This is the tool I like to take the membrane off. And basically, I mean, it's an ice pick. You can use a metal skewer, a wooden skewer. I come down to second or third rib and just kind of come in. Okay, and once you get off the rib just a little bit, you can kind of come in with your fingers. Sometimes this comes off nice and smooth and easy, and sometimes you have to do it in sections, but let me get a grip on this here. Okay, now I've got it, let me get a paper towel real quick. Now I've got it off the rib, and so I'll take the paper towel and just grab it like that and just come straight down. So we're completely free of a membrane. I like to take the kitchen shears, just kind of trim it up a little bit. Not absolutely necessary, but I guess through a lot of years of competition, you kind of pay attention to all the little details. Okay, got three items we're going to season this with. Okay, the first is we're going to make a baste. All right, we got 1 cup apple juice, and to that 1/2 cup cider vinegar. Okay, we're going to use this to moisten the rib to start with. We're also going to use it while it's cooking. So one third cider vinegar, 2/3 apple juice. And moisten that real good on both sides. Okay. Second ingredient is going to be some canola oil, so light cutting. And the oil, you know, pretty common to put down before you put the rub. It does a couple things. It helps the rub adhere, and it also helps in the browning process. So it kind of aids the bark in terms of building as you're cooking. And we're going to go ahead and throw down some butt rub here. Now, a lot of barbecue rubs have sugar in them. This does not, so you don't use it quite as heavily. Now we're going to get some sweet to this before it's over. The apple juice has a little bit of sweetness in it, but we're also going to be adding brown sugar. We're going to be adding some apple jelly. So in the end, it's not going to be really as sweet as it might look. It's going to have a sweet heat balance and a nice pretty glaze. Of course, pork and apple has always been a universal, standard. And then of course we've got our cider vinegar. It kind of helps balance off the fat in the rib. So the ingredients are simple and few, but it all works together very well. So we'll go ahead and get the grill prepped up, and we'll get this cooking on the grill. We're going to be cooking with just indirect, lump charcoal, a little bit of hickory wood. Okay, I mentioned we're going to bank the coals all to one side, and that's what we've done here. This Primo's got plenty of oblong space where we got the coals here, and we're going to put the ribs we'll be cooking indirect. So like we've done with grilling, we'll take our oil. We've got a clean grate, and now we've got an oil grate. It's a good habit to be into. Okay, so we've got the ribs here. We're going to go diagonal up there. There we go. We're cooking with just a little bit of hickory wood, indirect. I'm looking at 225 degrees. Okay, let's see what the ribs are doing here. It's been about an hour since we put them on the grill. Try to get some nice color. I'm gonna baste them one time in this process, and this is like we talked about, this is cider vinegar and apple juice combination. Want to get a good little misting here on both sides. So what's the purpose of the baste? Well, it helps keeps the ribs moist. It also is the foundation for our glaze. The apple juice begins to kind of slowly, lightly caramelize on the ribs as they're cooking. So we're basically building layers here. So this is basically wrapping up phase one of this process. Okay, so let's talk about the complete picture of what we're doing today. Right now, we're in the phase one of cooking. The ribs are on the grill. We've basically letting the rub set in. We're getting some color, get some flavor from the wood and the charcoal. And it's really the foundation of what makes barbecue ribs good right here, phase one. Phase two, okay, we're gonna be foiling these ribs. Now that's a process that's very popular in competition barbecue. It's the best way I know how to get them very tender, and it's still gonna maintain its moisture and very tenderness that's so desirable in the ribs. So basically we're gonna take these off once we get peak color here in just a little bit, and we're gonna re-season them, and we're gonna wrap them in the foil. That's gonna be cooking for another hour and a half in the foil, and at that point they're gonna be perfectly tender and beautiful. The final phase is we're gonna take them out of the foil and apply our glaze to it. And that just kind of, the last 15 minutes just sets the glaze, and it has a very attractive finish to it, and it also gives it the apple glaze characteristics that we're looking for today. That's where we're at. That's the three big pictures, and we're looking at a total cook time of 3.5 hours, give or take 10 or 15 minutes. It depends on, sometimes this first phase is an hour and a half, sometimes an hour and 40 minutes, but we will stick firm to this hour and a half in the foil. So I'm counting on 3.5 hours total cook time. Got our ribs here. We just took them off the grill. They've been about an hour and a half. They've been on the grill. Got some nice color to them. Like I said, this is a foundation of what makes these ribs really good. You've got the wood and the smoke, and the rub is cooked into the meat. The only problem with this right now is they're not tender, and so they're not ready to serve. So this is our next phase, which is really going to put wonderful juicy tenderness to the end product. Okay, I'm gonna hit it with a baste again, moisten it real well. I'm coming back with a light layer of the butt rub. And we're introducing a little bit of brown sugar here. This is light brown sugar. Same thing on the top side. Just a light coating. Building flavor. building layers of flavor. Okay, now this foil is the heavy duty foil. You're going about 4 or 5 inches on each side. And basically it's just gonna be like an envelope. Just kind of take it in right there, like that. I'm doing 3 layers per rib. And before you think that's overkill, this produces the juice and fat and the brown sugar. You know, you're gonna have a sauce basically built into the foil. And what you don't want is to have a hole in your foil and that gets all over the grill, all over the floor, all over, you know, I mean, it's a mess. You want it in here. So the 3 layers help protect you from having a big old mess, basically. Now, if you're in England, you're gonna need about 20 sheets of foil. It's paper thin foil over there. I don't understand what's going on with their foil, but it's kind of an inside joke, but they don't have thick foil in England. All right, here we go. So this is their baste. Wet it real nice. Butt rub. Bit of brown sugar. So we've got a nice foundation for our glaze already. We've had the glaze, the baste cook into the meat on the grill already. Now we're adding more. And so we've got the apple foundation already in place. More about that later. Now, once you have at this point, kind of rein it on in, tighten it up good. There we go. Okay, so this is ready for the grill, and this is going to be on the grill for an hour and a half at 225. Going into our third and final phase, we've got the ribs just come off the grill. We let them rest about 15 minutes, just so they won't be too hot to handle. Now, all we're gonna do is take them out of the foil, and I'm gonna put the apple jelly that's cooked down to a liquid. Actually, just put the apple jelly in there, heat on a low heat, stir it. When it liquefies, that's what I'm looking for. So we're just looking to basically glaze these ribs, put them back on for about 15 minutes, and we've completed our butt rub apple glazed ribs. If you're thinking that this might be a little overpowering, putting this much on there, it's not. That's just not the case. In the end, it becomes just a small part of the whole thing. About 15 minutes, we'll be ready to go. Okay, you've seen every step of the way. We've got our final product here, almost. Now we're gonna cut them into ribs, and I will show you how I like to do that. I like to turn them over, and here on the back side you see the ribs. That way you just go halfway in between on each end. You see the tip of each rib bone there. Go halfway to each one there. And the ribs, you know, sometimes they turn all kind of crazy ways, so you take your time and locate the end tip of each rib, you have nice, even, presentable ribs. Now, what I would do is just one light layer on the back side. It's ready to serve. Okay, our final product, butt rub apple glazed ribs. Hope you enjoy it, and we appreciate you tuning in. We have more episodes heading your way. If you're on Facebook, we have Bad Byron's Butt Rub Appreciation Society. We'd love for you to join. You'll be the first to be notified about our new episodes, and we can keep our information rolling to you about new recipes and so forth. So thanks for everything. Look forward to seeing you again. This is Bad Byron.